Imagine a stretch of forgotten road, winding through the woods like a ribbon left behind in haste. The trees stand tall and silent, their black silhouettes leaning inward, as if whispering secrets into each other's branches. Overhead, the sky is heavy with clouds that never seem to part, casting the landscape in a dusky gray even in daylight. There is no wind, no birdsong, only the occasional rustle, soft, indistinct, as if something unseen moves just out of sight. This is Glore Valley, a name barely remembered on old maps, barely spoken aloud anymore. Once long ago, there was life here. Miners digging deep into the earth, families building homes near the mines. Now, only ghosts remain. Ghosts of memory, of grief, of unfinished. Stories wrapped in fog and left to echo through the hollows of the valley. This is where our story begins. And this, dear listener, is your invitation to enter the long night. Clover is the first soul we meet. She is quiet, not withdrawn, but deeply thoughtful. The sort of person who carries a stillness with her, as though her heart is always somewhere else. And perhaps it is. It's been months since her sister Melanie vanished without a trace. One moment she was on the road, texting Clover from an old gas station just outside Glore Valley. The next she was gone. No phone signal, no sightings, no goodbye. Clover has not stopped looking since. Grief, for her, is not dramatic. It's steady, a quiet current beneath everything she says and does. And now, after endless dead ends, she is retracing Melanie's last steps, following the road her sister once took. She is not alone. With her is Max, her ex-boyfriend. They haven't been together in a long time, but there's still something unresolved between them, something tender and aching like a song you half remember. Max masks his hurt with jokes, with bravado, with shoulder shrugs. But beneath that, there's fear. He's not just here for Clover. He's here because he believes, on some level, they're all in danger. Nina is Clover's best friend. Fierce, grounded, and often the loudest in the room. She's protective of Clover, skeptical of anything supernatural, and determined to keep everyone together. Her boyfriend, Abe, is quieter, more reserved. He watches everything, says little. Trust is not something he gives freely, and in a place like Glore Valley, that's probably wise. And then there's Megan, Max's stepsister, younger, stranger, softer around the edges. She's always been a little different, attuned to things others can't see. Sometimes she dreams of places she's never been. Sometimes she knows things before they happen. The others call her psychic, in a half-joking way, but she doesn't laugh. She knows Glore Valley, not by name, but in feeling. She's dreamt of this place. They travel together in a single car, the tires humming low against the road. It's late afternoon when they reach the gas station, the one Melanie last texted from. It's a tired-looking place, empty, as though time stopped moving there a long time ago. Inside, they meet a man named Hill, the station attendant. Older, peculiar, his eyes too knowing, his smile too fixed. He watches them with something like recognition, though he says little at first. Just a warning, a vague one. People go missing on that road, he says, nodding toward the highway that leads into the valley. Always have. It starts to rain soon after, but not just any rain. It doesn't fall from the sky in a wide spread. Instead, it seems to begin all at once, in a perfect circle around the valley. As if something has drawn a boundary, a line in the land marking who may pass and who may not. With no cell signal and the storm growing heavier, they follow the road into Glore Valley and find a visitor center. It sits alone, surrounded by pine trees and mist. Its lights are dim, flickering, as though unsure if they're meant to be on. Inside, the place is dusty but not abandoned. There's a warmth to it, faint and deceptive, like a house left empty for too long but still trying to remember how to welcome guests. They decide to stay the night. It's not a conscious decision, not really. The rain, the quiet dread curling at the edges of their thoughts, the unease that clings to every surface like a second skin. All of it presses down on them gently, relentlessly. The rooms upstairs are old but clean. The hallway creaks. The walls seem to breathe when no one is looking. In the main room, there's a board filled with posters. Dozens of them. Faded photographs of smiling faces. Some are curled at the corners. Others bleached from sunlight. Missing persons. And there, among the strangers, they find Melanie. Her face, younger than Clover remembers, stares back at them from the wall. Next to the board sits a guest book, thick and leather-bound. Someone opens it. Inside are pages and pages of names, many dated years ago. But one signature stands out, Nina's, written in her own handwriting, dated today. She hasn't signed anything yet. Then the power flickers, once, twice, and then goes out. The rain doesn't stop, but only outside the center. The woods beyond remain dry. Too dry. From the upper windows, Clover sees it first, a second house. Or perhaps not a house at all. Just a shape, a structure. It wasn't there before, and yet it feels old, abandoned, familiar. The others gather in the lobby. The clock on the mantel resets. The hourglass in the center of the room, previously unnoticed, begins to turn, its sand running in reverse. Something is wrong. Abe opens a door that wasn't there before. Downstairs, beneath the center, they find another house entirely. Wooden walls, dust in the air, old furniture covered in sheets. Then, a noise. Sharp, quick, like footsteps, and a masked figure appears, wearing a miner's mask, wielding a pickaxe. There's no time to scream before the first blow lands. Blood, darkness, silence. And then, they wake up, exactly where they began. The hourglass turns again. The guest book has a new signature, and the missing persons board now includes them all. The storm continues, eternal and unchanged, and so begins the long night. Stay with me, dear dreamer. The shadows are only beginning to stretch. Let the hush of the valley guide you deeper into the folds of this strange, time-tangled tale. Part 2 awaits, where the loop tightens and the threat begins to take shape. But for now, let the echoes of Glore Valley lull you to sleep, carried on rain that never stops falling. It begins again with silence, that thick woolen quiet that blankets the mind in the moments just after waking, when the line between dream and memory hasn't yet sharpened. The rain continues outside, tapping gently against the windows of the visitor center like an old friend asking to be let in. Inside, the group wakes in the same positions as the night before. The same dusty couches, the same creaking floorboards beneath their feet. Clover blinks at the ceiling, her breath still caught in her throat. Was it a dream? It must have been. But then she sees it. The guest book on the counter. Her name is written in it. So is Max's, and Megan's, and Nina's. All signed last night. All dated today. Again. The clock on the mantel reads 5:47 p.m. Exactly the same time as when they first arrived. The hourglass turns once more. The sand runs backward. The first time, the deaths come quickly. They don't know what's happening. They think the masked man is a nightmare or a delusion, a trick of the storm, or a remnant of sleep. But when the axe falls, when it strikes Abe in the chest and throws him against the wall like a rag doll, the sound is too loud to be false. The blood is warm, too real, too much. Clover screams. Megan tries to run. The lights flicker again. Then a second blow, sharp and final, silences the room. Each death is brutal, and yet surreal. They see Max crushed beneath a collapsing staircase, his hand outstretched toward Clover. Nina disappears through a door that doesn't exist the next time they look. Megan is lifted into the air by nothing at all, her body contorted, her eyes rolled white before being thrown against the ceiling and dropping like a stone. It is as if the house itself is alive, as if it is choosing, testing, watching, but then, just as quickly, everything resets. Time folds inward like an old letter. The house resets, the hourglass turns, and they are all back in the beginning. Again. Unharmed, unchanged, except for what they remember. The realization comes slowly. It is Megan who says it aloud first, her voice shaking. We're in a loop. No one wants to believe it, but the signs are too many. The guest book now has multiple pages of their names signed in the same handwriting over and over. The posters on the missing persons board have updated too. First, they showed Melanie. Now, after each loop, they include the others: Abe, Max, Nina, even Clover herself. New photos, grim headlines beneath, presumed dead, never found. With each death, a new version of themselves disappears from the board. And with each reset, the memory of dying remains, blurred but present, a ghost of pain that clings like fog to the back of their thoughts. Megan begins to change first. After the third loop, her eyes look older. She stares at things no one else can see. Corners of the room, shadows in the windows, the fire that lights itself in the hearth. She begins to speak in strange voices, not accents, but something deeper. Ancient. Her words twist mid-sentence. She talks of the mine beneath the valley, of voices whispering in the dark. They want to be remembered, she says once, her voice not her own. They were buried too deep. Clover tries to reach her, but Megan is no longer fully present. Something is sharing space with her, something cold and very, very old. Then the tap water explodes. It happens without warning. Max is brushing his teeth, trying to pretend things are normal. The faucet screams, literally screams, as boiling black liquid pours out. It coats the mirror, the floor, the sink. Within seconds, the words help us appear in the condensation. On the wall, Max slips backward and nearly falls. Later in the dining room, Clover meets the elder. She finds him seated at a long table where no one else is sitting. He wasn't there before. She would have remembered. He wears an old miner's jacket and a wide-brimmed hat that casts his face in shadow, but his voice is steady and calm, like gravel being poured slowly into a wooden box. You shouldn't be here, he tells her. But then again, maybe you always were. Clover doesn't know what to say. The man's eyes glow faintly beneath the brim. You've been asking the wrong questions, he continues. It's not why this is happening. It's who remembers. Then he leans in, close enough that she can smell the wet stone and earth on his breath. It always begins with one death, one sacrifice, one door opened too wide. When she blinks, he is gone. Only the hourglass remains on the table. And it has stopped turning. And then there's Hill. Or rather, Dr. Hill. They thought he was just a gas station clerk, a gruff local with a strange smile and a bad sense of humor. But now, he's appearing where he shouldn't be. In the window. On the television screen, though there's no power, whispering in Megan's ear while she sleeps. They find photographs in the basement, dozens of them. Old, sepia-toned, curling at the edges. In every one, there is a man who looks exactly like Hill. Same face, same eyes. The photos span decades, 1935, 1962, 1988. Hill doesn't seem to age. One of the photos shows Hill standing outside the mine entrance. Behind him, the mountain looms like a living thing, and at his feet, people, lying still, sacrifices. The photo is captioned in red ink. For the night to end, it must begin. Max begins to suspect that Hill is the architect of the loop, or at least its warden, the one who keeps the cycle spinning, the one who ensures that the blood price is paid, that the game is played. But if that's true, then the question becomes, who made the rules, and who is watching them play? As the group begins their fifth loop, a new horror creeps into the edges of their waking thoughts. The posters on the wall have changed again. Melanie's face is gone. Clover stares at the blank space where her sister's photo once was. A new name is scrawled there instead. Dr. Melanie Quinn. The date of disappearance tomorrow. Melanie is not the victim. She might never have been. Is this about me? Clover whispers, but the house doesn't answer. Only the hourglass moves, spinning slowly, grinding time backward again, and so the loop tightens. each death more vivid than the last, each reset more disorienting, each piece of the mystery more fragmented, like a mirror dropped too many times. Megan speaks now in riddles. She draws symbols in the dust, circles, arrows, runes. Nina starts hearing footsteps when no one is there. Abe vanishes mid-sentence and reappears hours later, unaware he was ever gone. Max begins dreaming of fire. Clover dreams of doors. And always the house waits, not haunted but alive, watching, listening, hungering. The loops continue. And with them, death becomes familiar. Not easier. Never easier. But like the chime of a grandfather clock in a quiet hallway, it becomes expected. A rhythm. A pattern. A lullaby with teeth. The storm never lifts. The hourglass never breaks. And still, the night returns again and again and again. Max dies again. This time it happens in the chapel. They find it in the woods after the sixth loop, buried beneath overgrowth and time, half swallowed by the forest. They think maybe it's a sanctuary, a refuge. It isn't. Inside, a pew flips with a sudden crack, and a gnarled hand, not human, not entirely, reaches from beneath the floorboards. Max screams as the boards split apart and he's pulled down, bones snapping, the light in his eyes flickering like the lantern in Clover's hand. She tries to follow, but the hole is gone. Only his watch remains, still ticking. Later, when the loop resets, his watch is in her pocket. The time frozen at 11:57 p.m., 3 minutes before every death. It's after that loop that the memories start bleeding through, not just of their own lives, but of others. People they never met, children playing in the mine's shadows, miners coughing in the dark, the walls groaning above them. A siren, a scream, the collapse. They see the beginning of Glore Valley's curse in flickers of dreamlike memory, stitched together like film reels found in a basement. The story of what was buried. Years ago, the mine beneath the valley promised prosperity, but greed dug too deep. Something ancient was disturbed, something buried not by time, but by intention. The miners never made it out. The few who did spoke of voices in the rock, of hunger that didn't come from their stomachs, of a cold so deep it stripped memory from bone. And then they changed, not all at once, but slowly. Eyes that glowed in the dark, skin stretched too tight over crooked limbs. The hunger never stopped. They became wendigos, not monsters from folklore, but revenants born of starvation, grief, and dark energy that pulses like a second heartbeat beneath the ground. Those who died in the valley too many times. Those who lost themselves 13 times or more. They never left. They couldn't leave. They became part of the town, part of the loop. Their memories etched into the walls, into the floorboards, into the storm itself. Megan begins to survive. After loop 8, she stops dying. Not by luck, but by listening. She speaks to the house now. Not with words, but with presence. She knows where to step, which door not to open, when to be silent. There's a wisdom in her now, something quiet and aching. Clover watches her move through the space like a ghost that was never quite buried. Megan becomes their compass, the one who steadies Clover when grief threatens to drown her, the one who places a hand on Nina's back as she hyperventilates in the attic, the one who refuses to let them give up. "We aren't here to escape," Megan says one night. Her voice is calm like lake water. "We're here to remember." It doesn't make sense at first, but Clover believes her. Megan carries a journal now. She writes each loop in perfect detail, how they die, what changes, who disappears, what the house tries to hide. She's mapping the truth in ink and memory, the map of a curse, and then finally Clover finds her. Not in the visitor center, not in the woods, but deep underground, beneath the floor of the mine's abandoned elevator shaft, in a room carved by unnatural hands. Melanie, or what's left of her. Her skin is too pale, her limbs too long. Her hair hangs in wet strands like moss, and her mouth is filled with too many teeth. But her eyes are the same. Clover drops the lantern. Melanie tilts her head, and for a moment her jaw trembles as if trying to remember speech, but no words come. Only a sound. Low, almost like a sob, but filtered through broken glass. Clover steps forward, her body shaking. Mel? There's a flicker of her sister, standing in the doorway of their childhood home, laughing with a popsicle in her hand. Then it's gone. Melanie snarls. The Wendigo lunges. Clover doesn't run. She doesn't scream. She kneels, closes her eyes, and whispers, "I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner." The blow doesn't come. When Clover looks up, Melanie is gone. But the room is different. The walls, once jagged, now show drawings, childlike sketches in chalk. Two sisters, a forest, a house, a clock, a door, a mine, and beneath it a sentence scrawled over and over, "Let me go, let me go, let me go." The next loop begins, but something is different. Clover feels it. Megan sees it. Nina doesn't wake screaming, for the first time in days, and the hourglass. It's cracked. A hairline fracture, right through the center. The sand inside still turns, but slower now, hesitant, afraid. They are getting closer. To what? They're not yet sure. But Clover knows. One thing, her sister is gone. Not dead, not lost, but gone. Consumed by the valley. Transformed by the hunger. And Clover cannot bring her back. All she can do now is remember her, carry her forward, and break the cycle. Outside, the rain lightens. A breeze moves through the trees, soft and strange. Somewhere deep below, the mind shifts, not with malice, but with memory. The truth is no longer buried. It is beneath them, waiting. The 13th night arrives not with thunder, but with silence. The kind of silence that presses against the skin. Heavy, expectant. The house, the forest, even the rain. They are watching. Clover wakes alone. Megan's journal is by the window, left open on a page that reads, "This is the end. Make it matter." She moves through the house with care. Each room is different now, slightly off, as if the space itself has grown tired of pretending. The walls breathe, the floors hum, the portraits stare without blinking. She walks past memories, Max's lighter, flickering beside a burned chair, Nina's bracelet looped around the stair banister, Megan's map pinned to the wall, now bleeding red ink. The hourglass sits on the mantel, cracked open, sand leaking like starlight. Clover doesn't touch it. She knows time can't be held anymore. Tonight is the last loop, the 13th, the final turning. She must end it. In the dining room, she finds Dr. Hill, not older, not younger, exactly the same as the day they met him at the gas station. But the room around him is wrong. It stretches outward, walls growing too tall, chandelier, flickering like a heartbeat. Through the window, the sky burns in hues of violet and deep ink. "Clover," Hill says, sipping his coffee. As always, right on time. He gestures to the chair across from him. She doesn't sit. "You made this place," she says quietly. "It's not a question." "I helped," he replies, eyes twinkling. "But so did you." He motions toward the fireplace. The flames twist and ripple. Inside them, scenes from the past loops play like theater. Melanie's laughter, Max's scream, Megan's calm, Nina's tears, Clover's silence. "It's not a curse," Hill continues. "Not exactly. It's memory, emotion, unprocessed grief." The house shifts again. Hill rises, taller now. His face flickers, becomes her father, then her therapist, then the man who told her Melanie was missing. "You made them," he says gently. "The monsters, the shadows, the masks, all of it." Clover shakes her head. "No." "Yes," Hill smiles. "But that's not a bad thing. It means you can end it." His skin begins to ripple. Veins pulse. The air bends around him. He is unraveling, not dying, becoming something more primal, less man, more memory. I just gave it shape, he says, voice echoing now. You gave it power. The house darkens. Wind roars through the windows, but everything stands still. Clover steps forward, takes the chipped coffee mug from the table, holds it carefully. I don't need your answers, she says, and I don't need your story. She walks to the kitchen. The faucet still sputters, groaning with unnatural pressure. Black water trickles out, thick, caustic, alive. She places the mug beneath it, lets it fill. Then she walks back. Sets it gently in front of him. Drink, she says softly. You're thirsty, aren't you? Hill stares, smiles, lifts the mug, and drinks. The reaction is quiet at first, a low hum, like a radio tuning between stations. Then, his body jolts, his skin bubbles. His mouth opens wide, too wide, until the sound becomes a scream of shattering glass and buried time. He explodes inward, not with blood, but with memories, photographs, handwritten notes, tear-streaked mirrors. His form collapses into pages of Clover's journals, her fears, her sleepless nights, her guilt, and then ashes gone. The lights flicker. The walls moan. The house begins to break apart. Upstairs, the others are waiting. Megan holds Nina close, her face streaked with soot. Abe is already at the trapdoor beneath the bed, where the tunnel system begins. We have to go, Nina cries. They run behind them. The rooms collapse into void. Paintings melt, furniture screams. Clover grabs the hourglass as they pass. It crumbles in her hands, its final sand glowing softly, gently like stardust. She tucks it into her pocket anyway. A keepsake. They drop into the tunnels. Dark, damp, breathing. The masked assailant waits there. Not one, but three now. Mirrors of violence. Shadows of their fear. Abe lunges first, slamming one into the wall with a broken pipe. Megan lights her journal on fire and swings it like a torch. The figures hiss, recoil. Clover steps forward. No weapon, no fire, only her voice. You're not real, she says. You're pain, but pain doesn't own me. And slowly, one by one, the masks crumble. The faces beneath are their own. Clover, Megan, Nina, Abe. They were fighting themselves all along. Grief, regret, guilt. Now seen. Now released. They run the rest of the way in silence. The tunnel narrows. The wind grows still. And then daylight. Real, honest, impossible light. They emerge into the woods. The trees sway. The air is sweet. The storm is gone. Clover falls to her knees. In her hand, the last grain of sand glows briefly, then fades. The loop is broken. Not with violence, but with memory, with love, with letting go. The valley is quiet. The curse is finished, but the story, it will linger. Not to haunt, but to remind. That sometimes healing comes not from forgetting, but from remembering completely. The sun rises slow, like it's afraid to disturb the stillness left behind. The trees stand quiet in the early light. The birds do not sing yet. For the first time in what feels like forever, Glore Valley breathes without holding its breath. Clover sits on a moss-covered stone at the edge of the clearing. Dirt streaks her arms. Her shoes are gone, but she is alive. Megan is beside her, her coat wrapped around her shoulders, eyes closed but not sleeping. There are no words between them now, only a quiet understanding. The others, Nina, Abe, Max. Some made it, some didn't, and yet they're all part of the same story. Written in loops, spoken in screams, etched in fog. They don't return to the visitor center. They don't need to. The valley lets them go. And as they leave, Clover glances back just once. The trees seem taller now, somehow older, but no longer hostile. just ancient, just waiting. Freedom and loss. The loop is broken, but freedom never comes clean. Clover walks differently now, not with fear, but with the weight of knowledge. Melanie is gone, not just missing, not just lost, but changed into something Clover couldn't save. And still, Clover carries her, in her memory, in her voice, in the hourglass shard she keeps, hidden in her pocket. Megan, too, has changed, no longer just the quirky psychic or the background support. She is the survivor now, the one who saw beyond, who spoke to spirits, and who never gave up hope. They'll never be who they were, but maybe they'll become something stronger. Symbolism and meaning. The loops were more than time. They were trauma repeating. The mind, trying again and again to rewrite what can't be undone. Each death was a flashback, each reset, a refusal to accept loss. The hourglass was memory, fragile, always slipping. The Wendigos were grief, twisted and starved. The masked figure was fear, faceless, inevitable. To escape, they didn't need weapons. They needed acceptance. To look their past in the eyes and say, I see you, and I'm still here. Clover had to grieve Melanie. Not the memory, but the truth of her transformation. Sometimes those we love are lost long before we admit it. And sometimes, survival means letting go of the ghost still wearing their face. Dr. Hill's whisper, far away, in a quiet office lit by flickering monitors. A man leans back in his chair. He stirs a fresh cup of coffee. The mug is cracked. It leaks slightly onto the coaster. On his screen, a new cabin, new visitors, new hourglass. His voice quiet, almost kind. So, where shall we begin? And the loop begins again, not for Clover, but for someone else. The curse isn't bound to one person. It's a system, a pattern, a whisper that moves from house to house, name to name, because grief is contagious, and fear finds the cracks in anyone. Meta commentary, choice and fate, until dawn plays with the illusion of choice. The branching paths, the QTEs, the dialogue wheels. It asks, can we change what's already written? Are we in control or simply playing along? In the loops, the answer becomes clear. Both. Every decision mattered, even the smallest. A turned doorknob, a left instead of a right, a word spoken too late, but some things, some truths, were always waiting. The horror wasn't just the creatures, it was the weight of guilt, the replay of regret, the wondering. What if I had done it differently? That's the brilliance of Until Dawn. It mimics trauma. It makes the player complicit in survival. And it never lets you forget. Every life saved came at the cost of another choice left behind. Final thoughts. A lullaby's end. So now we rest. The forest still hums in our memory. The house still stands somewhere, in a fogged-over version of our minds. But the loop is done. For now. Until dawn, we remember. Until dawn, we survive. Or we become part of the night. And maybe that's the truest horror story of all. Not the monsters, not the masks, but the idea that time only gives us so many chances, and we must learn to forgive ourselves when we use them poorly. Clover walks into the sunrise, barefoot, hollowed, but whole. The wind is warm. The trees bow gently. The past, for once, stays behind her. And so do we, dear dreamer. Close your eyes. Let the woods fade. Let the echoes soften. The storm has passed. The hourglass is empty. And somewhere, in a quiet valley that only exists in dreams, the night breathes its last until dawn.